like I've written about it and everything. When I was 9 years old, I think it was 13 traps on the back of the garage, and I went up and asked Dad if I could set them. And as surprising as you may think, of Dad a hunter and everything, well, you know what his reply was? I don't like trapping it. I think it's cruel. My dad told me that. Of course, he didn't want me to go trapping. But he said, go ahead if you want it. But he would not help me. And I had a neighbor, or a friend of mine, his name was Frank Townsend. And we had a foundry in town. Down in the back of the foundry, there's ditches run out. They're probably as wide as this room. They run from the foundry out into the creek. I never realized what was running down them little ditches, okay? And we set traps all the way down through 13, you know, just whatever we figured we could do. And the funny part is, I was thinking about it the other day, I checked them every morning before school, and I'd check them after school. And I checked them day after day after day, and nothing. And finally, it was time to quit. When one night it had gone right down to 0. And I went down, and on the ice was there a nice big muskrat sitting on top of the ice with a trap on his foot. So we took the trap off his foot and killed him, of course. We took him home, and by the time we got to this point, this Townsend had quit, okay. And so I took it home, and I put it on the table there, and so when Dad come home, he could skin it. And he wasn't too happy about that, so but he skinned it, put it on him, made a little thing to put it on the stretcher, and that thing, the smell of that muskrat, the fur, and I mean, I thought it was wonderful. And hung it up, and the next day, well, it was the next year before I caught another muskrat. And I took it home, put it on the shelf there on the porch. I said, Dad, I got a muskrat out there, I want you to skin. He said, I ain't skinned nothing. And you? Said, I showed you how to skin. And it's your job. And I thought about it. I mean, years later, I asked Dad, why didn't, that ain't my dad. I mean, he'd do anything for me. I said, Dad, why didn't you skin that muskrat for me? And he said, well, a cousin of mine, he trapped. And he'd go trapping, and when he got back, and he's old enough, he was catching, you know, 200 or 300 a year. And he never skinned a rat, his dad did. So Dad says to me, I wasn't going to get caught up in that kind of deal. And, but that was my beginning of my trapping. And another boy in town, he had trapped, he had experience trapping.
What year was this?
Oh boy, I don't know. My wife would have to figure that out.
Okay, so you were born in when?
Huh?
Well, what year were you born? What year were you born?
I was born 2442.
Okay, so 1952, right? You said you were 10?
I was 10 years old. 9 years old when I started.
Okay, so early 50s. Yeah.
And but I had a kid in town. He was a pretty good trapper. He had to help. His father helped him, and he took one section of the stream, and I took the other. I think the third year I got 36. If I remember right, rats. And after that went on from there, you know. Never seemed to have enough traps. But I was driving. I owned a car, a '51 Ford. I owned it, bought off my brother-in-law. I think I paid $100 for it. And I run that trap line that winter with no license because I was only 15 years old. And I don't want to go, but I got that car in the ditch so many times. It got to the point where there was no reverse in it, so whenever I went anyplace, uptown or anyplace, I had to get 3 or 4 guys to go get with me, so if we got stuck, they could pull it.
That's awesome.
Anyways,
that's awesome.
That was the beginning of my trapping.
My story's probably a little bit different than most guys. I got started later in life than most people. in my last year of college, and I thought mink were cool, and I wanted to catch a mink, and that was my first starting of trapping. It was just trapped in the home farm, and then after that, I was setting from local ponds for muskrats and doing some fox trapping, and a couple years I was just doing a mixed bag deal like most people. Then a couple years later, I thought, well, I'm going to try to catch foxes. I did fairly well, with them, and some of the local guys, there were a couple of fox trappers around there like, oh, a catch of 30 is exceptional in this area, and it was. I mean, the population was really low for some years, and I mean, when I got into it at a time when the population wasn't real good, and I think that year I decided to trap foxes. I caught 50, and I worked my ass off for them. I didn't have a lot of vacation time from work, and it was all 3:30, 4 in the morning waking up. And we just didn't have a lot of them, and I worked for them, and like I'm almost more proud of them years than now that I have the time to do it and making bigger catches. But I think 2012, I was the first year I got another week of vacation off of work, and 100 came like that. And all these guys always said that like once you do it once, it's easy to do, and I don't know why. I mean, maybe we could talk about that later, but it's the most truest words. Once you do it once, you know what it takes, and it's probably more mental than anything. And there right when I got more vacation time and the fox population came up, it was a perfect storm. The prices went up. They were $50, and it was good there for 2 years or 3 years or something. And then it dropped off, and I went south. I trapped beaver in North Carolina, a little bit of land trapping down there for a couple of years. 2, maybe 3 years I trapped snapping turtles down there. I was out in Nebraska once, but it's just I was always into nature, animals, plants, and wanting to know every bird I saw, wanting to know every salamander and every tree my whole life. And it was just trapping was waiting to get into me, I guess. It just fit. It was the perfect fit. And my life is totally immersed in it, my whole adult life, really. We were talking about families, before. My wife is fully supportive of it. No, she doesn't go out the line, but I mean, if I have a bunch of foxes that need turned, and on a hot day sometimes they get dry quick, I'll call her up and say, if she's home, can you go out and turn them? And she'll do that. And COVID was a terrible thing, but I got to experience something that I know I never would have because of it. I had my kids home. They weren't going to school. So my middle daughter rode with me a lot last season, and it was a really good season, and I don't know if she'll ever be a trapper, but I'll tell you what, she helped out and probably was a better partner than just about anybody. I mean, she knew what to do, and it was great. And my oldest daughter was home from school, so I had her turning foxes every day. She did just about all of them. Brushed them out, unboarded them and whatnot. And we were talking before about how making a big catch and the fur handling part of it is huge with Phil doing all those foxes. Just my daughter flipping foxes this year was like unbelievable. It made my life easy. I couldn't believe how much easier that made. When I knew I'd come home and I just had to skin them, and and they would come out and they would pin them all too. All I did was skin them and flesh them quick, and they did everything else. And it was a treat because it was doing it with my kids, and it made my life easier. And then I think Zagger said, you had to split your catch 4 ways now or whatever.
Yeah. 4-man catch.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much my story.